All right, well, hey there. I am here today to show how to use this smartphone. This is an Android phone, but this should also work on iPhones. How to use this with this smartphone spectrometer 3D printed thingy. I'm going to show you how to kind of set that up. Now, the first thing that we want to do has to do with which browser to use. So the default browser on Android phones is Chrome, but when I tried this using Chrome, the problem that I have is that I could not choose the back-facing camera, which is this one. By default, it was giving me the front-facing camera here, which is not what I need because I really need to put the back-facing camera up to this device so I can get a nice spectrum. So I need to be able to select that. Now, in the past, I used to be able to use Firefox, again, which is free. On Android devices, so I used to be able to use Firefox to use the back-facing camera. I tried that earlier today, it didn't quite work. But what did work is when I downloaded the Opera browser to my phone, that allowed me to choose the back-facing camera, so that's what I have up here now. So you want to go to spectralworkbench.org, which is the site that I'm on here, and in a minute we'll push this camera button to open up the interface. But what you want to do is you want to click kind of here and go down to log in, and you want to you need to kind of have already created a profile with publiclab.org, and so the reason it's important to log in is because you want to be able to save your spectra to this website so you can analyze it on your laptop or iPad later. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my username. Now the weird thing is that when you put your username in, you press login, it doesn't actually log you in. Instead, it goes to a page where you can actually put your password in. But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to put in my username. So there we go. Click login. And now I'm going to be at, now it's going to ask me if for permission to allow Spectral Workbench to use my profile. The answer is yes. Spectral Workbench, by the way, is nonprofit and all that. So now I'm logged in, and so now I can press this camera button. Now you're gonna have to be a little bit patient here because there we go. All right, so it popped up, and now it wants to know which camera that I want. So that was why I needed to choose Opera. I do not want the front-facing camera. I need the back-facing camera, and so I'm going to click back-facing. Like that, and now I have an actual video thing. I need to put it up to this device. Now, there's a couple different ways, in principle, that we could use this thing. So the way I'm going to do it is so obviously you put your phone through the grip here and kind of do it like this, so that you're kind of using the phone. You're kind of using the phone and the setup kind of like this when you're taking a spectrum. In principle, you could do it like this, but with this thing kind of rotated, if that makes any sense. But I would not recommend that. That doesn't seem to work very well. So, and my screw just came out, so I got to screw this thing back together real quick. It's the benefit of live television. All right, there we go. So all right, so here we go like this. I'm going to rotate it back like that. And so now I'm going to make sure that the little hole here aligns with the hole in the camera. And let's see. And I'm going to sort of point it towards the wall here until I kind of see. So I'm moving this thing back here to try to make sure it's in the right spot, which can be tricky. But there we go. All right, so you see those see the little rainbow there? So you want the yellow line to go through the rainbow. I'm actually going to pause here, and I'm going to kind of clamp this down a little bit more than it was, because I feel like that could help in the future. All right, so there we go. So now I'm getting this rainbow. And by the way, you don't want to point this thing exactly at the fluorescent lights, because that will saturate and it'll look too bright, and you won't get good data out of that because the pixels will be maxed out. So there you go. So it should look like that. It should have blue on the top and red on the bottom. And so you can see that this looks a lot like their example that's there. By the way, some of the lights in the classroom are LEDs, and some of them are compact fluorescents. So the ones in the front that have the switch by the front, those are the compact fluorescents. All right, so I got my little rainbow there. So now I'm going to click begin capture. Begin capturing down here. By the way, it seems to work all right if you sort of catch the reflection of the light rather than getting it automatic. And all right, here we go, begin capturing. Okay, so I see those nice little peaks there. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now the thing, once you get to this screen, the thing about this screen is you have to put in a description. You have to put a title and a description of this, otherwise it's just going to trash your data. It's just going to delete it. And so I'm going to go ahead and put in a description. And for some reason Opera is not behaving for me. Okay, save the spectrum. I call this test 6 because I've been doing this all day. And then also make sure that you give it a description down here. You don't have to tag it, but you do have to give it a description. You might just want to say like something like CF for compact fluorescent in the description. And then instead of saving with calibration, you could just say save and calibrate later. Might need to press that twice. There we go. So now it's going to save my data. And in a second, I'm going to jump over to my desktop and kind of analyze it. So I'm going to give it a second here. All right, Spectrum was successfully created. Perfect. Okay, so here I am at spectralworkbench.org, and I'm going to need to log into this thing so I can see the data that I just took from my phone. Now when you click login, it's going to ask you for this username, so you can create a username with publiclab.org, which is some sort of nonprofit. The weird part about this is that you go ahead and put in your username, but it doesn't actually log you in. Instead, it takes you to a page where you can put in your username again and your password, and you can log in. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my username again, put in my password, and now it's going to bring me to this page. It's going to ask, is it okay for publiclab.org to access your account? The answer is yes. Both of these organizations are nonprofits. They're not trying to make any money off of this. So go ahead and press yes. And sometimes the site is a little bit slow, so you might need to be a little bit patient. But just don't close the page. Just kind of let it sit there for a little while until it opens up. Now the screen that we're about to see is going to have spectra from a bunch of different people. But if you have very recently uploaded spectra, well then you might actually see your spectrum loaded there, and you can go ahead and click on it. But if you don't see it there, there's another link. It's going to say something like your spectra that you can access in order to see all the spectra that you downloaded. So I'm logged in now, and you can see that I've uploaded the most recent spectrum here, but there's other people that have posted some things. If you just want to see the spectra that you've loaded, you want to click your spectra. And be patient. The site's a little bit slow, but maybe it's just because it's the middle of the day. I'm not totally sure. So that's going to come up, and I'm going to go ahead and click. So here's all my spectra. I'm going to click this one, test 6. And so there you go. So it is showing kind of a line out of, it's taking this picture and it's taking this gray line here, is giving me the intensity of these various lines. Now the goal of this is to sort of take these pixel values here and to turn them into nanometers. But the problem is, at least for my phone, is that when I click calibrate, it's able to find this green peak, which is good, but it tends to think that the blue is to the left, when in fact clearly blue is to the right. And as far as I could tell, I did everything correct when I recorded the spectrum. I mean, you remember how it said blue at the top and red at the bottom, and that worked fine. And so you might think, okay, well, all I got to do is sort of drag this blue over here to calibrate, but then it's still over here, this blue line. That doesn't actually seem to work. So the answer is to we have to flip the spectrum. So we need blue to be on the left and red to be on the right. Is what we're supposed to do, and unfortunately the directions don't give us. There's not a whole lot of things that address this directly. So, but the answer to do this is you want to click Flip Image horizontally down under Data Extraction, and so I'm going to click that, and it says, "Are you sure?" Because this could cause some problems. And you say, "No, I'm sure." Okay. And now, if we just wait a second, you see it's still thinking here. If we wait a second, this image is going to flip, and it's probably going to end up over here. But again, we have to be a little bit patient. And it could be that during the middle of the day, the site might be a little slow. But there we go. So now it's flipped. I think it's still thinking here. Yeah, it's still doing something. So now it's flipped. So now we have blue to the left and red to the right, which is what the calibration is expecting, but all these lines are still over here, which is confusing. The answer to that is to click Set New Cross-Section. You could give it whatever number, I don't know, 10. I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply, and in a second it should redraw these lines, and they'll appear underneath these things. I'm going to go ahead and I feel like I should do that again. So Set New Cross-Section, 10, Apply, and again the site's a little bit slow, but all right, so there it goes. So it finally went. And now you can see these lines match up pretty well, as a red line here, blue line here. So now all you got to do is click Calibrate, and it has automatically sort of found the green, it's found the red, it's found the blue, and that looks pretty good. And so now you can go ahead and click Save. I mean, if it's not quite right, you can kind of move this around, but it looks pretty good to me. Now, this calibration spectrum, for reference, that's from a really, really good spectrometer, and so that's why you see all these nice fine features. For us, you can see this faint blue thing here, and sure enough, there's kind of a blue thing there. But I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And it's going to do that, and so now we have an actual calibration spectrum that we can use. So there we go. So your new calibration has been saved. Now, instead of pixel numbers, you can see that this is 435, 500. So now this x-axis is in terms of nanometers, which is what we were hoping to do. And so that makes a lot of sense, right? Blue at 435 nanometers, green at 544. Red at 615, so that all makes a good bit of sense. So we did it. We managed to calibrate the spectrum.